Hi, this is Blake from Yamaha here with the new YC61. This is all new for NAMM 2020. YC61 is a stage keyboard, but it has an organ focus to it. So the cool things about this instrument are you have it's really easy to kind of see what's going on the front here. You have an organ section right over here. So you have all the things that you kind of think, control over the rotary speaker, drive, volume, turning on the section, upper and lower manuals, so you can kind of select what you're playing here. And you notice on some of these guys, like I'll grab, let's see, where's the one? This one here. So I can go in here and I can do things like change the drawbar color, let's say. So I'll bring the other one down here to green. And it's cool, you can kind of see at a glance what manual you're on, so upper and lower. It has 3 different H models. H models are vintage organ models. We use virtual circuitry modeling to do that, where they model everything at the component level. So the model itself is really, really great. Lots of great other things to go along with that organ would be the rotary speaker. There's 2 different rotary speaker types. Rotary A, which is a straight up rotary speaker. Rotary B adds a transistor preamp into it, so you get a little bit more distortion. So it basically covers, on this vintage organ thing, things like jazz, R&B, totally cool. But if you want to go for hard rock, any of that kind of stuff, using the rotary B speaker and the H3 is a perfect combination in this guy. In addition to that, we also have 3 F models, F1, F2, F3. That uses 8 operator FM synthesis. F1 is kind of like a pure sine wave organ. And the thing that's cool about that is that it has that sort of vintage sound, but because it doesn't have the fold back anomaly where the octave repeats itself, like on the vintage organ, it has this really nice sine wave sort of bass. So a lot of the gospel guys really, really like that sound because of that low filling bass. F2 is more like a British transistor organ, so it has more of a square pulse wave, and 3 is more like a Italian sort of sawtooth waveform style. So those are the guys in the organ section. In addition to that, you have, let me get out of this screen here, you have these sections here, 2 key sections, A and B. You have a selection of really great grand pianos like the CFX, our 9-foot concert grand, the C7, which is probably the most recorded grand piano in the history of music. You also have an upright piano. You have a selection of Tyne pianos, RD78, which is kind of a modern Tyne, all the way to RD73, which is kind of like more of a vintage sort of one. So you have all that stuff. Plus, both of the key sections have 2 insertion effects available that are discrete from each other. So you have lots of effects. You can actually have up to 9 effects simultaneously going at the same time. Over here, you have your speaker amp section where you have the rotary speaker control, but you also have lead, crunch, and combo, and case. Case is a new VCM model of kind of a speaker amp combination for an electric piano. Okay, so the best thing about this guy, outside of its sound, because it sounds amazing, is that it weighs 16 pounds, 7 kilograms. Super, super lightweight, very easy to pick up and take to the gig. It's a 2-channel USB audio interface as well, so you connect to the computer and play virtual instruments or play tracks back from a computer. It's also a MIDI interface as well in that regard. And then just some of the real quick things on this guy. The idea of having the one-to-one interface is really important. What that means is that one knob does one function. You're not diving into menus on the gig. Everything's really fast, really easy to get to keep you in the music, to keep you focused and not have to worry about kind of all this deep editing. Another thing that's cool, let's say you have like an old 88-note keyboard that you're kind of done with the piano sound. The piano sound in this is amazing. You can set this up to control just that piano sound on a lower keyboard and still have access to the organ stuff on top. Or let's say you want to add a second manual. You can set a lower keyboard to just be the lower manual, so you have a 2-manual experience if you want to work that way. So it's designed to work with what you already have, which is really slick. So that's basically it in a nutshell. It's the YC61 stage keyboard from Yamaha. It'll be available in mid to late spring, so you're going to want to go to your nearest dealer to check it out. Thanks a lot for watching on Gear Gods here. This is Blake Angelos from Yamaha.
Hey, I'm Joe Gilder with Presonus. I want to show you today the Audio-Station 24C, just announced here at NAMM. It looks a lot like the fader port. If you're familiar with our fader port, I've used the old fader port for years in my studio. The new fader port's awesome, and one of our most requested features was, hey, why don't you take a fader port, turn it into an audio interface, so we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And so that's what we've done with the Audio-Station 24C. So if you look on the back, the story's always on the back. We got 2 mic inputs. What's great about this, it's mic, it's instrument, but it's also line inputs. So you have a separate button on the front to adjust it and switch it over to line input, which is great. So if you've got external preamps, you can still plug them into this without having to go through a second round of preamp and all that nonsense that happens. Got 2 outputs for your speakers, we got outputs for your headphones, foot switch input like you're used to with the fader port, and then it uses a USB-C connector. So on the right-hand side is where all the audios happen. You got your inputs for your trims for your 2 inputs, 48-volt phantom power available on both. It is a USB 2.0 device, so we have the option to listen to the inputs directly off the box, or listen to playback, or some blend in between. Headphone output, main speaker output, and this is one of my favorites. It's a mute button for the speakers. So a lot of smaller interfaces that you're gonna have to turn them down every time you don't wanna listen to your speakers, so let's do a vocal. Mute the speakers. You can just mute it right here with the button as opposed to having to turn things down. So it's almost like having small audio interface, fader port with control surface functionality, and a little bit of like a monitor controller for a tiny little package. And then if you're not familiar with the fader port, you can do lots of great things. Obviously the fader will follow you around your session, so you can adjust levels this way without having to click on a fader. Transport controls, I use these all the time when tracking vocals. Mess up a part, hit record, hit rewind, hit record, and I'm singing again without ever having to stop playback in Studio One. And one of my favorite features, obviously this thing will do a lot. If you go into link mode on this with Studio One, any parameter on the screen that you hold your mouse over, this knob suddenly becomes the controller for that. So if you've got a cool vintage EQ or compressor plug-in, hover your mouse over the input and turn it. It turns. Move your mouse over to the next one and it turns. So for me in my setup, I'll have my computer here, my mouse over here, and then the I/O station is my left hand. So right hand on the mouse, left hand on the I/O station, and I'm moving and I'm adjusting all in like one super simple, easy to use workflow. So check out the I/O station. It's amazing.
Hey, this is John from Zoom, and we're here at the NAMM show checking out the new Zoom G11. And this is our new multi-effects guitar processor. And what you can expect is a lot of the sounds from Zoom that you've heard and we've gained a lot of respect for, but in a new package that's a lot easier to control. You have a touchscreen user interface here with a lot of different smartphone controls, so you can easily rearrange patches, effects, build new patches. You could also connect this to your computer and use our Guitar Lab software to manage those things. And the big focus here is making it a lot easier for you to create and manage your different sounds, and instead focus more on actually creating and making music, because at the end of the day, I think that's really what everyone's main goal is, and no one wants to be frustrated by using their pedal board. So there are a number of different modes that you can use the pedal in to control it. With the G11, there's a number of different modes that you could use to view the patch that you have currently selected. So for instance, there's play by patch memory here, and then on the screen it will just show you real big which patch you're using. And you can use the foot switches down here to switch between patches during a song. You can swipe down. For instance, you could also play by bank, and here you can name the bank, the song that you're playing, and have a number of different patches in that bank for different sections of the song. And overall, it's just really easy to use, really customizable, expandable. You'll be able to import impulse responses. There's an effect send and return on the back. So it's just really your all-in-one guitar rig, whether it be for at-home use or playing out live. And the release date to be determined and the pricing to be determined, but we're just showing it here for the first time at the show. And thank you for stopping by. Take care.
Hey, this is Gary Boss here with Audio-Technica. We're at NAMM 2020, and we're really happy to be introducing a new version of our 3000 series wireless. Now, we introduced the 3000 series 4th generation a little bit ago, and it's got great market support. Thank you very much. We've been on stages, we've been in corporate, we've been in House of Worship, we've been kind of everywhere. And one of the things that we thought that would really round this system out would be network compatibility. Now, many people might not even know what that means, but Audio-Technica has its own proprietary software. As we know, the spectrum is very crowded. Many times you use multiple wireless, and figuring out how to plan those frequencies is very difficult, and this new software helps you do that. We now have a network-enabled 3000 series system, which makes it even that much easier. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to look at what we have. So we have 4 channels of our 3000 series network. This looks really fancy, but it's nothing different than a network switch you'd have at home. This is just one that can rack mount. I have my 4 channels of wireless going into this switch, and then I just go out to a little PC under the table. We have a Microsoft Surface under there. I launch my software, and one of the things that's cool is all of a sudden it recognizes, here's the 4 receivers that I have down there. So it automatically knows I have those 4 receivers. If you want, you can begin to add other wireless to this. Why do I want to add these wireless? Because I need to figure out my channel plan. So once I've done my device list, I come over to my frequency coordination, I see my systems here, and I do a scan, and it's going to use those receivers to scan the environment. And all it's doing is saying, this is bad area, and this is a good area. So when we look at this, anything with a little spiky is another transmission, typically another transmitter, and this is all the noise in here. So once I've done my scan, it figures out where my frequencies need to be to avoid interference, and then I just hit deploy, and it actually pushes all those frequencies into the receivers that I have connected. Any other receivers, I just type those in if they're not an Audio-Technica connected device. Then, during the performance, I can just go over to monitor, and I can actually, through one device on my laptop, I can monitor the performance of all my wireless. And the thing this takes the guesswork out of is when you tour, I can go to any venue and do the same scan process, and it'll give me a clean channel plan by venue. So that's what happens in this 3000 series network enabled. The nice thing, this is in conjunction with the 60 megahertz of tuning bandwidth, so it's really wide end tuning bandwidth, interchangeable capsules, small body pack for guitar with a manual mute switch that's easy to get to on the outside, rack mount receivers. Again, the 3000 series with the new network enabled receivers here at Audio-Technica.